All right, what the hell, Restream? I had the graphic correct. That it was episode 113. I uploaded it days ago, and yet you still played the old one. Welcome to episode 113 of the Wise Guys Sports Show tonight, June 8th, 2025. We are getting very, very close to our summer vacation, and we are getting and you'll see why as we progress through the hat trick tonight. Uh, Michael, going up a half hour late tonight, kind of unannounced. So, some things in the pipe here, but it's all going to work itself out in the end tonight.
Agreed. Happy Sunday to you, James. And when we discuss why we had the half hour delay this evening, I think our audience will understand. It is a sad day for the Wise Guys. No, nothing like personal trauma, kinda, but it
No,
is a sad day in Wise Guy land. Um,
nobody died. There's no family emergencies. Nobody went bankrupt. Nobody's car blew up. Nobody got divorced. It's but there definitely are some hearts being broken.
this is one of those. If you tell your spouse or significant other or even family members that it upset you to this point, what we are going to discuss in the blast, they would look at you like you had six fucking heads.
Because we're going to need the better part of the next hour to be able to kind of compose
It,
ourselves to be able to
it
talk about it.
we I we just need to jump into the hat trick, dude, because I can't
Because
fucking.
because here's the other thing, and not to kind of bury the lead a little bit here on this, it's certainly not enough. It's not worthy enough to be able to put up front here tonight in a hat trick, but it's also killing one of our more well-known bits on this show.
It is killing one of our more well-known bits. No, they did not say they would never bring the clit jersey back, so we're okay there. But
We're gonna
deserves
start. We're,
applause.
we're gonna start there tonight, aren't we?
But it is the end of an era for the Wise Guys. Is what we have lost this evening has been a staple of our show since the very beginning. But
Think
we
about
have
that.
two. Where'd we go? Oh, there we are. But we have two championship rounds going on, Jim, and pretty intriguing on them. So what do you say we jump into the hat trick and let's see what we're going to get going with tonight?
It's the three biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
And I'm not going to play the horn just yet, but I'm going to actually, if you'll indulge me here for just a moment or so, I'm going to fix the error that we had at the start of the show. So talk amongst yourselves here for about 30 seconds.
Okay. A pea is neither a pea nor a nut. Um, they sell boiled peanuts on the side of the road down here.
I don't know if I've ever had a boiled peanut, so I
You
don't know
don't
how
ever
I
want to have
feel
a
about
boiled
that.
peanut. No. To paraphrase Fat Bastard from the third Austin Powers movie, it's hot, sick, and ass.
Yeah, we'll just jump into it. I was gonna fix the intro. I could probably do that at halftime and everything. So at least this way the graphic will be right when we end the show.
Hey, that'll be good. Who, wait a minute. In the immortal words of Major League, who gives a shit?
It's gone.
It's gone. And the NBA Finals, Game One, Tyrese Halliburton must have stepped in some kind of lucky shit or something. The way that game ended. And now, as Jim mentioned in the bottom, Game Two is going on, and the score in Game Two of the NBA Finals right now is 57-39 OKC with 132 left in the first half. As Jim and I said off the air as we were coming on, OKC is not playing around anymore. Don't be shocked if these next four are just Oklahoma City imposing their will on Indiana. But Jim, let's talk about Game One just for a second. What a game! I mean, just what a game! He hits that shot with 0.3 left on the clock. What he did to the Cavs in Game Two of the Eastern Conference Semis, what he did to the Knicks, I believe, in Game One or Game Two in the Eastern Conference Finals. So Halliburton, like you said last week, he would win the Conn Smythe of the NBA if they had one. Obviously, they just have one for the finals. But what was your impression of Game One? And are you in agreement with me that Oklahoma City might just put their foot down and end this thing in five?
Well, we also have to go back. Remember, he did it to Milwaukee in the opening round too.
Hmm,
So I
good
think
point.
he like set an NBA record of something of like of hitting like a game winning shot to win a game in the series in all three rounds for somebody being like younger than 26 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the graphic I saw was, but he definitely did set some sort of record like that. Um,
I wouldn't doubt it.
but you know, I mean, let's see what happens in the second half here because I mean it's 19 now going into the half, but remember Oklahoma City was, what? They were up as many as 25 in game 1 and then
I think
Indiana
so.
chipped away. Um we all knew that Indiana was going to get one here in Oklahoma City. We just didn't think it was going to be the first one.
No, agreed. I think the difference between tonight and I don't have it on. I'm not doing squirrel on you here. I think the difference between tonight and Game One is Oklahoma City understands uh, that they can't play around. It seemed to me from watching the highlight package of Game One, they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit, which you really can't do against this team. As the Cavs and the Bucks and the Knicks all learned, if you get a big lead, you have got to put the hammer down and make that lead 50 if you can, and just end it.
Cuz
And
Indiana
Oklahoma City unfortunately fell in the same trap.
because Indiana right now is shooting absolute hot garbage. It's as I've got the stat cast up. Oklahoma City is shooting 51% from the field. They are 7 of 19 from 3, 6 of 8 from the line. The Pacers are 15 of 42 from the floor for only 35%. Andrew Nemhard has 8. Pascal Siakam's got 9. Tyrese Halliburton is 1 of 6 and 1 of 5 from deep, and he only has 3 points in this game. The Pacers are 7 of 21 from deep in the first half, as it's 59-41 as they're basically going to the half right now. Shy, the MVP's got 15, and Chet Holmgren's got 11 to pace the Thunder. Jalen Williams also has got 9. Alex Caruso and Aaron Wiggins both have 8 off the bench.
Is it just me, or did we not hear Chet Holmgren a whole lot in the second half on game one?
No, it's we I even though I had a lot of the game on mute, in the background, I don't ever remember hearing kind of seeing him, to be honest.
Yeah, he basically did a disappearing act in the second half of game one. So let's hope he doesn't do it again. Not for nothing, I would love to see SGA take and give the big finger to uh, KD and Russ and become the greatest Thunder player of all time by winning a championship. Obviously, no disrespect to Indiana. It would be cool for them to get their first one, but there is that bitter fan in me that's like, well, you beat my boys, screw you. Um, but hey,
Because when I look over the rest of the stats here, outside of the way that these teams are shooting from the floor right now, and if Indiana's going to get back into this game, maybe this break at the half, and uh, Halliburton and Siakam basically slapping their teammates around in the locker room, even though Halliburton needs to slap himself a little bit, and Rick Carlisle is going to tear into these guys. Um, they're both very, very, they're almost identical down the board. The Thunder have 5 offensive rebounds. Pacers have 4. The Thunder have 20 defensive rebounds. Pacers have 17. The Thunder have 25 rebounds uh, combined. The Pacers have 21. Thunder have 14 assists. Pacers have 13. They both have 5 steals and 2 blocks each, and they both have committed only 8 fouls. And then Indiana's got 9 turnovers and Oklahoma City 8. So it's just a cold shooting night. If Indiana can actually wake up a little bit, they can certainly claw themselves back into this game.
oh, I agree with you 100%. Um, I think what OKC needs to do is their defense around the perimeter looked a little lax to me in game one. They got to turn up the intensity. If they don't turn up the intensity, it's going to be a long night, and then you got to go into that arena in Indy. Fuck that, dude.
Yeah.
Forget that. But now going back to what I said before? I know we kind of tossed it around before we started. Can you see Oklahoma City just ending this thing in 5?
I don't know about that because for them to kind of do something like that, they would have needed to grab game one. I don't know if they can go into Indiana because if Indiana's going to have an off shooting night like this, but they're basically going to be able to crash the boards and still play, halfway decent defense. This again comes down to Indiana shooting cold, Oklahoma City shooting the lights out. Other than that, it's a perfectly even game at this stage at the half, even with Oklahoma City up 19. Um, Watch Indiana trim this to maybe get this to within 12 or fewer by the end of the third quarter. By the time we're getting ready to go to halftime, maybe. Um, and let's see what happens in the fourth quarter because Indiana's got the capability of grinding, down, and that's exactly what they did in game one. But to be able to go back to Indiana on Wednesday night, for game three, and then game four would be Friday. I don't know if I like that. Um, I'm not sure. Um, I don't like Oklahoma City to sweep uh, in the field house.
Okay. No, I just didn't know. I mean, because they seem like the kind of team that they really turn it on the way they had it going in the regular season. There aren't many teams that can beat them. But let's see what
Since we
happens.
since we don't have the game on, I'm almost wondering, is Indiana playing a little tight, knowing that they almost have to play a perfect game? Um, so what happens now didn't happen from the outset, and then just ended up happening anyway, of them getting run off the floor in the first half.
Um, I'll have to watch the highlight package, which I do the day after each game. Um, but that's a possibility. You would think Carlisle, who's been here, wasn't Carlisle the coach in Dallas when they won their championship?
Yes, yes, he was.
Okay, so Carlisle's got a ring, and I would say he played a much better team in that Miami team that they beat um, than Indiana. No disrespect to Halliburton and Siakam, but they're not Bosch, Wade, and James, um, especially in their prime. Now, having said that, he knows the pulse of his team. If they're playing tight, he'll find a way to loosen them up for the second half. So let's see what happens. I'll be interested to see when I wake up tomorrow morning what happened.
Yeah, even though we'll have the result before we go off the air tonight, even though it's going to be a little bit shorter of a show, for what we actually have out there. Um,
Mhm.
but I don't. I think it's a little. I don't want to say that we're kind of grasping at straws to be able to, talk out the last few minutes of the segment, but I don't know really how much more we've got to say here with this. We talked about the stunner in game one, and basically, game two kind of playing out the same way here. Um, because there's so many intangibles that, again, with us not having the game on, not having watched the first half of tonight, even though we both caught game one, um, and just I don't know. I think if Halliburton gets going in the second half, and Siakam, continues to play well, because he's the only player on the floor for Indiana right now who is playing well tonight. Um, 3 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 3 from deep. He's already got 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Even though he's a minus 13 on the floor. Um,
Jesus.
yeah, it's I mean, for any of the Indiana starters, Aaron Nesmith is a minus 10. He's the low man on the plus minus. They don't have a single player of you know anywhere close right now. Whereas Wiggins, yeah, he's got the 8 points off the bench, but he's a plus 17. Not even Shy's got it in plus minus double digits tonight, and he's leading all scorers with 15 points.
Okay. All right. So plus minus, that's what your team does while you're on the floor, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a totally different thing from the NHL because remember in the NHL, which we'll talk about here next, plus minus is if you're on the ice when a team scores at even strength, it doesn't count if you're on special teams. The NBA started adopting this a little bit more just to be able to feed the stat junkies. Um, in the last 5 or 6 years, it's really kind of grown. Um, but it's also something that the analytics guys take into consideration when they start juggling their lineups. It's something that Kenny Atkinson did a lot with the Cavaliers when he tried to put together the lineup of doom, which turned out to be the lineup of death. Minnesota does it a lot, with the way that they would mix things up. I know Tom Thibodeau, that we'll talk about a little later on tonight, did it a lot to be able to try and maximize the productivity between Brunson, Carl Anthony Towns, and DiVincenzo. I'm sorry, not DiVincenzo. Josh Hart.
Bridges. Yeah.
And it didn't work out very well.
Well, not for Tibbs anyway.
Right.
Well, let's get to the more interesting final, in my opinion. Could you play two better hockey games than
I
those
think
two?
they said. I think they said it was like the first time in a couple of decades that the first two games of the Stanley Cup Finals both went to overtime.
Well, when you got a rematch, I would think it would happen. I mean, game one, what Dreisaitl had two
Yeah, including the overtime
in the
winner,
game winner.
very late in overtime too. And we talked about it on the show last week, and we can be a little bit more animated about this because this is the one that you and I are paying a little bit more attention to than the NBA finals, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because this one's got the potential to go either way. Um,
Mhm.
but McDrysital basically paired up. McDavid assists on Drysaitl's goal, but we talked about it that when we previewed the finals last week of Edmonton having such depth even after losing a couple of guys. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, with my Blues in the background, but they lose two guys to offer sheets to the Blues last year. But really, other than that, it's the same squad coming back um this year, and they're getting contributions out of 40-year-old Corey Perry, and Perry scores. Perry set an NHL record in Game One. Mike, do you remember what it was? I know you probably heard it.
Was he the oldest to score, or was it the most time in between goals in a final?
It was you're on the right track. It was the latest uh equalizing score in regulation in a Stanley Cup Finals in history.
Oh, that's right, because there was 3 seconds left in regulation, right?
It were 18 seconds. I want to say the
Yeah,
previous record was like 36 seconds, set back in the 50s with the Canadians.
yeah, I'm sorry, I heard 40, and I thought it was one of those oldest guy, but then I realized there were dudes in their 40s playing in the finals for years. So, here's what I took away from game two. Um, it, I understand hockey's a sport that's highly physical. Matty Kachuk going into the box and applauding the dude and tapping him on the shoulder for taking out Skinner. Fucking bush league, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Absolutely.
it,
From a guy
and
whose dad was in the league, that is beyond bush league shit,
yeah, it's
and it's going to get somebody hurt.
exactly, exactly. Let's see what happens, when the series shifts to sunrise tomorrow night, for game 3. And, although the problem that I have now is the scheduling is because they did the right thing, game 1, day off, game 2, 2 days off, but yet they have game 3 tomorrow in sunrise, and then they get 2 days off, and game 4 isn't until Thursday. I don't care if because I
That's
don't
TV shit.
yeah, I don't think it's a scheduling conflict with the NBA finals. I'd have to look that up. But then again, with the NBA finals, game 3 wouldn't be until Wednesday. You know what? Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, because you figure they're going game three tomorrow night. You're going to give them a day off in between games in the finals. And then you're giving the NBA 2 days. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because game three of the NBA finals will be Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Game four of the NHL Thursday. Game four of the NBA Friday. Yeah.
and then next Saturday would it would be yeah, it's going to go Monday, Thursday, Saturday, because we're
Mhm.
guaranteed game 5 back in Edmonton on Saturday night.
Yep.
Tickets already
Uh,
going as low as $990 if you
as
got a
low
pass.
as, yeah.
But, yeah, for a Sabres fan, which is very conflicting here for me because remember, I was a fan of Big Walt for years when he played with the Blue
Yeah.
Note, and including even when he played in the desert, um, with the Coyotes. Um, I even remember when he kinda started out, playing with the original Jets, before the move, down to the
Mhm.
desert. Um they actually see his kid pull something like that against Jeff Skinner, who was, a focal point of the Sabres for a number of years up until he was traded last year, to make the run to the finals. Um, and only playing in his second ever Stanley Cup game. Because this is for as long as Jeff Skinner has been in the league. I want to say this is only like his second or third time ever in the playoffs.
Yeah. But it was Bush League. I saw that. They even called him out on one of the broadcasts. I don't know, or some broadcaster called him out on it too. Because Steph has a friend that she writes with who is she's big into hockey and apparently he's a Devils fan. So whatever.
Right.
Um, and she sends me TikToks with hockey stuff all the time just because it comes across it. When I saw that, I immediately was like, I hope Jim saw this.
I
I hope to
believe
God he saw it.
it wasn't the actual broadcasters, but I wanna say it might have been the intermission crew, and I wanna say it might have been Bissonnette and Anson Carter, who were career antagonists. Let's be honest.
Well,
I mean,
Bissonnette's an asshole.
Bissonnette certainly, Anson Carter certainly was not. But yeah, because Anson Carter had a very, very long and very productive career. May not have been as successful when he first broke in with the Oilers as we all thought when you and I were back in high school.
Oh
Um,
Jesus.
y- um, but or even like when we were in junior college together. Um,
Mm.
but Anson Carter, we do remember, could actually have that side of him if he wanted to. And if those two guys are calling you out uh, for for something bush league, yeah, you've gone low. And to make matters and to rub salt in the wound even more, remember who scored the overtime, the double overtime winner the other night?
No,
Rat
I didn't. He was
Marchand.
all Marsh on that fuck. You know what
On
the funny thing is?
on one where Skinner got the initial save, and then the puck just kinda rolled off of his pads back into the
Yep.
net after making the save.
Yep.
So I think it was also brought on by the angle that they came in on and the way that Marchand was getting pursued. So, I mean, it's one that Skinner's gotta have, but I don't exactly blame him for the way that it got away because it was on a
Yeah.
breakaway.
Yeah. No, it was. First of all, the save was good, and then you trickled. What are you going to do? But listen, that's the most evenly. This is the most evenly matched NHL Stanley Cup playoff finals. Excuse me, that I've seen in a long time.
Because we've
I
seen
mean,
some
you.
series go 7, but you know, I mean, most recently we remember last year where Florida ran all over Edmonton in the first three, and then Edmonton ran all over Florida, but they weren't nearly as evenly matched because Edmonton was kind of playing with house money, having the best player on the planet, having the best duo on the planet, and
Mhm.
arguably the best line on the planet. With that top line of theirs. Um, you know, Florida having been to the finals the year before and coming up short against Vegas, all busted up back in 2022, 2023, I'm sorry. Um, when my Blues won, it was something that which was, I believe, the most recent game 7 prior to last year. And it was one where the Blues were physical, but Boston was just a more dominating team through that.
Yeah.
Um, I think you have to go back um to Tampa with a game 7, and I'm not talking, right before the lockout in '04, but we've seen a lot of good game 7s in the last 10, 15 years, or series that go 7, but I don't wanna say that you could definitely tell that one was a lot more talented than the other. You can't say that this year.
No, you can't. I mean, like I said, these are very, very evenly matched teams. Um, it reminds me a little bit of that, and of course, the one I paid the most attention to was that '94 series between Vancouver and the Rangers. Um, they were very, very evenly matched. Those two teams. It came down to really Messier's experience in that setting, and Mike Richter just being Mike Richter during that run. I mean, Bobrovsky's still in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if Bobrovsky gets hot, if Florida's going to go back to back, because I think he's the better of the two goaltenders in this series. Bush League plays and injuries notwithstanding. The problem is Bobrovsky's got to get hot against the two best players in the series. You're right. It's the Gorilla Monsoon, irresistible force, immovable object. This is going to be fun, and it's going 7.
Because
It's
if you go
definitely
back
going
to
7. It's definitely going 7. Did you lose me?
No, it's that I heard a siren or something going off, and it's like, "Wait a minute, was that you?" Oh, no, it's the timer that I have set in the background. I thought it was gonna be a buzzer, not a siren. It scared the sh Especially living that close to the hospital here, it's like, "Holy shit, is that right outside my window?" So, yeah, I gotta load up a different timer that's gonna play a different sound at the end.
It should just play pivot at the end, James.
I mean, I should do that.
It's like we come up with this shit when we're not thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to create one on my phone tomorrow, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, much as I praise use everything by them, screw you, YouTube, for kind of like, um, not YouTube, Google, for saying that the ad blocker that I typically use, um, isn't compatible with Chrome anymore. So now I'm getting ads on YouTube for the first time in 2 years, and I can't get them to go away.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. So 'cause my Netflix
If you want to
bill is
get rid of them
$3
for, if you
a
want to get
month,
rid of
and
them
my
for
rent's
60
going up,
days,
and I'm not paying for YouTube Premium.
well, I was gonna say, if you want to get rid of them for 60 days, the premium thing is for 60 days. And I just got done with mine because I had tried it because I wanted to download something a while ago. Canceled it the next day, but I still had the 60-day trial, so I'm just at the end of that.
Yeah.
I hate saying the guy's name because he's a douchebag, but did you hear what Colin Cowherd said the other day about this?
I did not.
The Knicks got good when James Dolan was more worried about building a fucking sphere than he was about the Knicks.
Which is completely true.
Agreed.
I mean, if we go through it, we could definitely talk about the worst owners in sports in any of the leagues. And then if you actually started taking, if with the fact that you got, over 120, basically you've got a French Open size field of the big four, and I guarantee you, James Dolan is going to get himself is going to find a way to get himself into the final four, which with
Into the Final
whatever
Four.
bracket he's coming out of.
Vegas has him as the odds to be the worst. I mean, and honestly, in my Mount Rushmore of dog shit ownership, it goes Pirates because you're screwing Paul Skeens out of a career and you disrespect Roberto Clemente with a fucking seltzer can. Jerry, Dolan, and Jimmy Haslam. I hear no argument.
I mean, I'm not going to look up all the owners right now, but I probably know a bunch of them based off of uh, just looking at the teams right now. Uh, Cincinnati doesn't have the greatest one in the NFL. We know Arthur Blank is dog shit in Atlanta. We know
But
we know
here's the
all about
difference.
we know all
Here's the
about
difference.
Jerry.
Arthur Blank, and is it Mike Brown that owns the Bengals?
Yeah, we also have to include Mark Davis in Vegas.
Yeah. Here's the difference with Arthur Blank and Mike Brown. They let their football people make decisions. When James Dolan doesn't have something taking his time away from the Knicks, he makes the decisions like Jerry. I'm sorry, but the Jason. By the way, they're talking in New York. They're talking Jason Kidd being the front runner for this job.
I mean, you'd figure he's coached the Nets. Um I mean, he'd be familiar with it. He's definitely a decent candidate. Um,
If I'm the
you know,
Mavericks owner, I'm bending Dolan over a fucking barrel. He's not a
worst
free agent.
owner worst owner in the NFL, and hear me out, Woody Johnson or Jerry Jones. And be unbiased, and you're not allowed to go Marshawn here. I
Fuck.
as a Jets fan, and going back decades here, I want your honest opinion and try to be objective with this. And again, I'm not trying to sway you, but Jerry, they don't have Super Bowls under him. Those were Tom Landry, I believe.
They were
Um,
Jimmy. They were Jimmy
okay,
Johnson. But here's the thing. They don't have Super Bowls since Jerry tried to take all the credit.
I understand that, but
because
they've got
Jerry was
division
the owner.
titles and they've actually got playoff appearances, and the Jets haven't had shit in 13 years.
Here's
Next to the Sabres, it's the longest streak in North American sports.
I'm gonna say push, and here's why. Woody Johnson knows more about powder than he does football, and he can't help himself but to hire people who want to kiss his ass. Jerry thinks he knows it all and doesn't want to hire people to tell him no. They're basically one and the same with one difference. Jerry was smart enough to start his vision and his journey with the Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson, and he won some titles. I think Jerry of today, if he's the one who bought the Cowboys, let me put this for you: Herschel Walker never leaves the Dallas Cowboys. They never
Yeah,
make the trade that
I
makes
can
them
agree
a
with that.
dynasty. Woody had some forethought at one point in time. You know, it wasn't, I think the last AFC championship game the Jets were in was pre Woody Johnson before the 2 years with Rex Ryan, when Leon Hess owned the team and Bill Parcells took them into Denver with the wind swirling like a motherfucker and what have you.
Right.
But before that, I don't think they'd ever been to one since the AFL championship games back in the 60s and 70s. Um, it's a push because they're basically different flavors of the same food.
I have to give, just based off of what we've heard in the last few probably months, I'm gonna have to actually give I'm gonna have to give the Duke to Woody Johnson as being worse. Um, you know,
Because of the Madden ratings.
the shit, yeah, the Madden ratings, the stories regarding his kid, signing Aaron Rodgers, which we'll talk about, which he's come back up. We'll talk about him in the second half. But I mean, Jerry's made a lot of really stupid decisions. But let's also be honest. The last couple of years, they've been bit by the injury bug really bad at the worst time. I mean, uh, they come off a division championship and and then Dak gets hurt. Who's to say that Dallas doesn't get in as a wild card team last year, or Dak doesn't get hurt? Do they actually, do they keep momentum rolling enough before he gets hurt to where they end up shoving Washington or Philadelphia out with two extra wins in their slate?
Very true. I will say this, and I'm going to change my mind. It is Woody Johnson for this reason. Jerry's also had the forethought to put together maybe the best offensive line in the last 10, 15 years. What they had with those guys in their prime, and Zeke behind that line as good as he was when he was young, and Dak Prescott as good as he was when he was young. They're just snake bitten in a lot of these things where
Yeah.
they've run into a buzzsaw or they've run into a team that was the exact opposite of what their defense was. Woody Johnson hasn't put a winning team on the field in so fucking long. It the children who were born the day Mark Sanchez lost the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh because they came out flat after beating the piss out of New England are now almost eligible to drive vehicles, James.
I mean, Michael, do you believe that they actually wanted him to say anus?
I believe that he wanted to say it more than he let on that he wanted to say it. I also believe that the stupidest thing the Jets ever did was dismantle that team.
But kind of getting back to the names on the screen here, um, it's we can't argue with the fact that as much as shit's gone wrong in Dallas with the Mavericks in the last few months, um, James Dolan is on a whole other level and has been for a long time. I don't know what the issue is with Dallas. axing Peter DeBoer after 3 straight trips to the conference final and not getting through each time. I understand that they may wanna go to a different, direction, and somebody's gonna swoop up Peter DeBoer, the second it becomes available after the finals end next week. Um, and they're actually able to because there's definitely gonna be some coaching vacancies to be able to do that with. Um, I mean, shit, if I were the Buffalo Sabres, I'd call Peter DeBoer in a second and say, "Hey, the Lindy Ruff thing shit the bed. Uh, how's a 4-year contract sound?" Um, although
Here,
although that's hilarious considering Terry and Kim Pagula, as great as they are owners with the Bills, they are the absolute worst owners in the NHL with the Sabres. Um, but I can't understand really with I I can understand Dolan axing Thibodeau because he's a friggin' idiot. I can't understand how Dallas axes DeBoer for not getting over the hump, considering they ran into the best player in the world the last 2 years.
here's how shocking him being fired was. When I saw DeBoer was let go in a shocking move, I thought it was the Alabama head coach.
Kalen DeBoer, yeah.
I thought he was gone. I was like, holy shit, is Saban coming back? What the fuck is going on?
Like,
And then I see it's this dude, and I'm like, wait a minute, that just doesn't jive. Did Dolan buy the fucking stars when we weren't looking? I mean,
exactly.
seriously now.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I got
I think
nothing.
arguably Peter for the two of these, they're both stunners, but I think Peter DeBoer getting axed in Dallas, especially with the more recent success that they've had and the better body of work, is a lot more stunning. Now, granted, the Knicks losing in 5, the Stars lose in 5 in that series. It's it's almost understandable to want to make a change. Um, Dallas making the change after not being able to get out of the conference finals the last 3 years because the last time that Dallas, went to the final was the COVID bubble in 2020 against Tampa, and lost that series, I wanna say in 6. Um, but this was the best Knicks team in 25 years.
I mean,
Um,
this is let's discuss what Tibbs did since he's been there. Their win total has improved every single year since he took the job. They have gotten farther in the playoffs every single year since he took the job. Uh, they won 53 games this year. Now, granted, I will say this: they had a terrible record against teams that were in the playoff hunt with them.
mhm.
They at one point in time they hadn't won a game against teams that were ahead of them in the standings. But I will say this: the more shocking thing is they actually asked Jalen Brunson after Game 5, and you had full throated defense and support from your best player. And you basically give the finger to the guy who is the best player on the roster, won the clutch award for this year in the NBA because of how good he is when the time comes. It that blows my mind more. I don't know Peter DeBoer from Adam, you know, because I'm not as big into hockey as you are. So I'll let you speak to that. And you spoke to that part of it, looking to get over the hump. I get it. But I know the New York Knicks in the last 25 years, and they haven't been this far since 1999. Think about that. I still lived in Cleveland. Ridiculous.
The
Absolutely ridiculous.
Where did that go? Because I'm actually looking over, the current NBA head coaches. And through the end of this season, the only opening that is out there right now are the New York Knicks, especially after this move. Um, I mean, I'm looking through and yeah, we did have a couple of interim guys. Somebody's possibly going to get axed here before too long. I mean, uh, Darko Ratchkovic in Toronto might be on thin ice. We saw Mitch Johnson is now the head man in San Antonio after Pop's retirement. Brian Keefe's got to be on thin ice in Washington. Um, David
Congratulations
Adelman,
to Cavs
David Edelman
assistant
actually
Jason.
took had the interim taken off of um, his title in Denver. Charles Lee has how is he still got a job right now in Charlotte? Um, I don't see.
Jason Ott just got the job in Phoenix,
Yeah,
the Cavs assistant. Congratulations to him, by the way.
yeah,
Um, and by the way, the guy in Charlotte still has a job because Michael Jordan knows he's a horrible fucking executive.
right. I mean,
Um,
possibly Willie Green in New Orleans, but New Orleans is not going to get themselves right until they actually decide to cut bait with Zion, legal issues aside, because that's never gonna work.
the thing is, Mike Brown is out there, a former coach of the year, took a Cavaliers team to the finals in 2007. They're talking Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd is going to cost you draft capital and a player because Dallas isn't going to let him out of his contract. At least if they're not stupid. And
Right.
that GM is a fucking moron. But the owner has a plan. Now, granted, it's the Rachel Phelps plan, but sorry.
But if we look at DeBoer, these firings for both of them come at the absolute worst time because Anaheim named Joel Quenneville head coach last month after, and Quenneville's still got a lot of iffy, there's still a lot of red flags with him, coming out of the Chicago scandal. Boston just hired Marco Sturm earlier this week, former Bruin Marco Sturm, nonetheless. Chicago hired another new coach a couple of weeks ago in Jeff Blazehill. Um, some of the other ones, Dean Evanson's not going anywhere in Columbus after they rebounded, at least just yet. Todd McClellan signs with Detroit just after Christmas last year. Jim Hiller in Los Angeles isn't going anywhere. Um, Sheldon Keefe with New Jersey signed last year, not going anywhere. Mike Sullivan just signed on with the Rangers last month. Rick Tockett's the new guy in Philly as of last month.
Rick Tocchet.
Yeah, Dan Muse just
There's
got
a
the job
name.
back on Tuesday with the Penguins. And Lane Lambert is now the head man in Seattle after they made the change, but yet kept the entire staff, kept Biles' most entire staff, and former a longtime NHL player Adam Foote took the job with Vancouver uh, last month. So a
Good
lot
for
of these
Foot.
jobs are set. So that's why I'm thinking wherever Peter DeBoer is going to latch onto, I'm thinking that both of these guys end up taking assistant jobs as heir apparents at this point, kind of like what we all thought the Browns did um uh um
Schwartz.
with Jim Schwartz. That if Stefanski was ever going to be let go, which if they don't start to right the ship, after this year, could end up happening. But certainly, I would think that wherever DeBoer is going to be, it's going to be on to somewhere where somebody's going to be on thin ice. And I really think that Buffalo is in play here, not trying to be a homer.
Yeah, no, I got you. Plus, we also don't know what the relationship was between the coaches and the front office.
Yeah,
Um, from everything I've read, Tibbs had a great relationship with Leon Rose in New York. Um, I don't know what DeBoer's relationship was with the guys above him, but I'm
DeBoer.
sorry.
If you have a problem with Peter DeBoer, personally or professionally, you got a problem with yourself. DeBoer is one of the class guys amongst
Okay.
the NHL coaching fraternity.
Okay. So, in other words, the GM is a prick in one spot, and the owner's an idiot in the other. Um, but I will ask this question.
Unless what happened in
And
Dallas is coming above the GM. We're talking like president or owner at this point.
so another idiot owner, basically.
Could be.
Let me ask this question. Obviously, these owners have made their money, whether it's they inherited it or they are successful in their own right. But did the money strip them of their fucking brain? You hire people to run the sports part. What are we doing?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna lean towards the owner now that I looked it up for um with Dallas just because it's Tom Gagliardi, and I remember Tom Gagliardi vividly, as he owns the Moxie's grill and bar chain in Canada. But I remember that Gagliardi, um, at one point wanted to buy the Atlanta Thrashers and move them to Hamilton, Ontario. There were a lot of people that wanted to buy and move the Atlanta Thrashers. He had the idea. Being a Canadian, I can understand. If you're gonna move them to Canada,
But the
put them in
Hamilton?
Halifax, you put them back in Quebec. After, especially now after they've got all of their arena renovations at this point. Um, and now Quebec City's got a fully capable and fully furnishable NHL style arena that they hadn't really since the Nordiques left in 95. Um,
Jesus.
but yeah, it's yeah.
See, that's what kills me is that these teams that we knew growing up, the Nordiques leaving in '95, the fucking Hartford Whalers, dude.
Yeah.
The fucking Hartford Whalers, man. It's just um, it blows my mind. So let me ask you this, and then we'll close the first half on this one. More likely to get a job first, is it Peter DeBoer or is it Tom Thibodeau?
Yes. And
Okay,
I'm not trying to Marshawn this just because I'm gonna say whoever is going to be the the answer is gonna be the first one that gets a phone call. Because I don't think this is gonna be a scenario. Neither of these guys, I guarantee that because both drafts are coming up here in the next couple of weeks, um, I guarantee that both of these guys have a job on somebody's staff, or actually somebody kind of gets shoved out of the way that we're not actually hearing about just yet. And one of these guys gets brought in. Um, Probably, I would say no later than the draft, because you figure, you know, the draft is if the end of the finals is the official close of the season, the draft is technically considered the start of it for a lot of teams, um and a lot of and except for really baseball where they do their draft in the middle of the season, but it's a time for hitting the reset button. Staff, players, you're looking forward to free agency because that actually opens a couple of weeks after the draft because all those leagues started 30 days after the close of the finals and the draft is right in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL is just a little different because they do the draft after free agency is opened. At this point, teams changing their identities to where they want to actually present like new threads or logos or anything like that at the draft. So my guys are probably going to have their new look. If it even if it's like the same jersey, but with that new logo I had kind of showed you. Um,
Yeah.
they're anticipating having that at the draft here in a couple of weeks. The new Utah logo is going to be up there as they've completely hit the reset button and have everything finalized. So that's going to be on display in Los Angeles on the 27th. But again, I think this is definitely going to be a situation where whoever picks up the phone first is going to have a job. But these guys are also in a position where you're going to have a lot of people calling. It's also going to be who's going to be able to offer you. I don't even think for either of them, it's going to be about the money and the contract and the power. It's going to who's going to be the better fit at this point. And either one of them is going to perfectly in love with whoever's going to be able to make them that offer and guarantee that within 2 years they have their team turned around. Even if they're going to to a lottery team.
Um, I don't think I don't think either of those guys are going to be up for a rebuild. So it is going to be a team that may end up firing their coach and going from there. Um, we'll see though. We'll absolutely see.
I mean, last statement on this is, let's also be honest. Yeah, their playoff series and their conference finals did not end the way that they wanted, but I put maybe 20% of how their season ends on the coaching. I don't
I
I
about 15.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere in that, certainly under 25%, at that
Yeah,
point,
it
just
this
because. Oh,
those two teams did not lose because of coaching. Those two teams lost because they played, you know, it in the Knicks case because of the hot team. And in the
and you could say the same thing with the Oilers.
yeah, yeah,
After
but you know what?
remember, after the Oilers struggled in the opening round against LA, they buzzsawed through everything. I mean,
Yeah,
granted, some series went 5, some went 6, but, you know, after kinda stumbling early, Edmonton's found their footing very well and then just basically dominated the back half of this of each series. The Knicks really didn't so much have that, um, but, ran into a little bit of fortune on their end, especially with Boston having Jason Tatum getting hurt and changing that whole series up. Um, and then, the Cavs basically crapping the bed, so, allowing Indiana to get through, but the Cavs crapping the bed at that point, and also kind of a little bit of their injury bug, even on a much, much smaller scale, though, allowed Indiana to start building the momentum that they needed to run the Knicks off the floor in 5.
I'm going to say this. The Knicks ran into the hottest team in the playoffs. The Stars ran into the better two players than anybody they had in their roster. So again, you can't really fault the coach for that. Who would on the Dallas roster would you put above Drysaitel and McDavid?
Nobody above McDavid. I would probably put Jason Robertson and Antti Rantanen both above Draisaitl.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
And and
Um,
and and wholeheartedly, I would put Jake Ottinger above any other player, any other goaltender amongst the 4 teams that got to the conference finals. I just had no
okay, then
idea that Jake Ottinger was gonna shit the bed the way that he did.
yeah. So then yeah, they did run into the hot team. So and you know what? That shit happens. You see it in every sport. You get teams like um you get teams like those Giants teams that beat New England both times.
Yeah,
They were hot teams. You're a Phillies fan, you see the Mets from last year. The Mets were the hot team. And that's why they went to the LCS against the Dodgers. Uh, hell, we almost saw the Detroit Tigers play against the Yankees in the LCS because Detroit was the hot team.
exactly, yeah.
So yeah, they both ran into the hot team, and that's just kind of how that works. But what do you say we get some caffeine to get through the last little bit, and then
As,
come back in a
uh
couple of minutes?
Yep, as actually it is 17 with about 90 seconds left to go in the third. So obviously the Thunder have not cooled off. Indiana has certainly started scoring a little bit more, but the Thunder just seem to be pacing them. So it looks like here, by the time we go off the air, we will be 1-1 heading back to Indiana.
And let's see what happens in 3 and 4. But we will see you guys in about 7 minutes.
5 minutes.
Oh God. Okay. Oh, that's right. You got the timer all set up. Yeah, yeah. I see that. Oh, I see it.
Screw it. I lost my ding. Oh, there it is.
We'll see you in five
We'll see you
minutes.
guys in 5. There we go.
And we're back. Sorry, it said I was still.
Yeah, we were both muted. I actually have to remember that even though I'm changing the orientation and going to a different slide, that the mics are still live, even if we're not.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, James, I told you I had to give a shout out for something, but I'm going to give you Mike's stat of the week. And the number this week is 243. Any guess?
I wish it would have been 206 because we could have actually done like some Dan and Keith.
Nice. Nice. Well, 243 is the number of home runs that Pete Alonso has hit since his debut in 2019. And it is good for second all time in Mets history as he hit two today in Colorado, passing David Wright's 242. Not bad for less than 7 seasons. He is 9 away from tying and 10 away from breaking the record set by Darryl Strawberry all the way back in 1990. We can move on. I'm done. I
I was
told you I
saying,
needed a second.
Of course, Canaveral. Of course, Canaveral. Of course, Canaveral.
The ones that Ronnie Mauricio hit last night and that Alvarez hit today both went over 450.
Did you see the clip of the kid, the prospect with the Red Sox?
Wow. I was more impressed by the kid from Oakland. Did you see the center fielder, what he did?
No.
He ran full bore into the left center field fence in Sacramento like he was playing defensive back for the Raiders back in the day and drilling a wide receiver.
I'm actually starting to get a little bit excited about about them heading to Las Vegas because I think even though that the bottom's kind of fallen out even after their hot start, I think that they've actually got the ability to kind of turn this around when
They
they move
do.
in.
And I tell you what, here's another funny stat for you. In one of Charlie Morton's first starts, he played with, what was it? He played with Jack Wilson and played against Matt Holliday. And when he takes the mound against the A's later this year, he'll be playing with Jackson Holliday against Jack Wilson's kid. He's an old fucker.
I think we're old fuckers.
Oh, that goes without saying, but we're not lacing him up every fifth day and throwing a big league start. Although I am built like Bartolo, so it is possible. Although I don't have a second family, nor have I done.
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
As I cut you off on purpose there.
You're gonna cut me off, brother. I like it. So in the blast tonight, we got just a few things we want to get into here. The starting with, and let's start because the private chat bubble is open on here, and I can't see. What was that first one again? It was UFC, right?
Yes.
So what happened? I know there was fights last night. Zach had mentioned it to me in passing today. What went down last night, sir?
Well, we had two title fights last night. And both were at the bantamweight level, so men's and women's bantamweight. Memba Divashili takes down Sugar Sean O'Malley on the men's side in the main event with a third round submission with a choke. But the history was actually made in the co-main event just prior to that, and that was Kayla Harrison dethroning Juliana Pena to become the women's bantamweight champion. Uh, and uh, it now makes Kayla Harrison the most decorated female combat sports fighter in history.
Really good for her.
Kayla Harrison, for those who don't know, was the 2012 and 2016 Olympic gold medalist in judo at 78 kilograms for the United States. She was also the 2019 and 2021 PFL women's flyweight world champion, comes over to the UFC and is now the UFC bantamweight champion, as they asked her to go down a weight class, which means Kayla Harrison, who typically walks around at around 170 pounds of just an absolute friggin' wall of a human being, she normally has to come down 15 pounds just to get to 155 at flyweight, and now even has to come down further to get to 135. She owned Pena
Jesus.
from the outset in this fight. Pena said that
Really?
she wanted to be the aggressor, and Harrison took the center of the octagon the entire night and wins with a after taking down Pena with about 2 minutes to go in the second round. Is looking for a head and arm choke and then realizes with about 30 seconds to go she might not get it, as Harrison's never gone the full 5 rounds in any of her fights. Um, they've all been sooner, stoppages. She only has one loss on her record, and that was to Larissa Pacheco in the 2022 PFL finals, considering Harrison stopped Pacheco twice during that run to the 2019 championship in PFL. Um, so with under 30 seconds to go, she decides that she gives up on the head and arm choke and transitions to a Kimura lock. And Pena taps out before Harrison can crank on it, because the second that she would have cranked on her, she would have shattered her arm.
Good
And I'm
God.
not saying that facetiously, because it was the same position. And Joe Rogan and John Anik even brought it up on the broadcast that I was watching last night on the pay per view, that said it would have looked a lot like when, and I know you're not a big fight fan, but you remember, this is my all time favorite fighter. Remember when Frank Mir broke Big Nog's arm with that Kimura back?
Yes.
It would have ended the same way. And Pena is half the size of Big Nog.
Yeah, that would have been instantaneous. Wow.
So not only does Harrison win the title, we've now got the biggest and most anticipated super fight in women's MMA coming up possibly before the end of the year.
Who's she fighting?
Her teammate at American Top Team has been retired for the last 2 years. She was in attendance last night. I see your ears perking up. Michael,
No way.
you're right.
Get the fuck out of here.
Amanda Nunes will come out of retirement to fight her teammate
What?
later this year. Kayla even said it. I've got the belt. She's got the legacy. Let's put it all on the table.
That fight happens, my son's coming on. Just so you know. Okay, where are the next where is the end of year UFC stuff? Because you want to give her time to get back in shape. So we're talking, this is going to be holidays. Where are the big ones?
I'm thinking either late December or early January, possibly.
They going back to the Garden?
I mean, you figure Nunes could actually use 6 months here to get back into shape, having been retired and everything. And Harrison really wasn't pushed last night at all. The only significant strikes that Juliana Pena landed in the entire fight were two up kicks after Harrison scored a takedown in the first round, and both of them were illegal, and she was docked a point for it, because by rule in MMA, if you're standing over a downed opponent, you cannot kick that opponent in the head. Same thing applies if you're on the bottom. You cannot throw an up kick to hit your opponent standing over you in the head or neck, and both kicks landed above the shoulder on Harrison. So Pena was already docked a point, so it automatically gave Harrison a 10-8 round, putting her 2 rounds up after just 5 minutes.
Jesus. Dude, we have got to go in depth on that fight if that happens. But as soon as you said it's been retired 2 years, I'm like, holy shit, Nunes is coming out.
And here's the irony, that Harrison's first fight when she joined the UFC last year was against Holly Holm at UFC 300.
Yep.
Holly Holm was the author of the biggest upset in women's MMA at that point when she knocked out Ronda. That was eclipsed when Amanda got submitted 2 years ago. Who submitted her?
Was it
Juliana
Holly?
Pena, who
Juliana
Kayla
Pena.
Harrison tapped out last night.
Okay, so yeah, this is the
It's it's this is the multiverse coming to form.
this is almost the buildup is almost WWE like. I know you saw Truth last night.
Yeah, yeah. Well, another time,
Another
another
time.
place.
Another time. The French Open, of course. First of all, hats off to Coco Gauff winning her second major, uh, outlasting her opponent on Saturday at Roland Garros. Is it officially Rafa Nadal Court at Roland Garros?
I believe yes, they have named it.
Yeah. So, and speaking of, let's talk about today in the men's final and the epic that was the men's final. What was the name of the guy who won again? I know it went 5 hours.
Carlos
We talked about it.
Alcaraz and number 2 ranked and defending French Open champion against world number 1 and the winner of the last 3 he was looking for his 3rd consecutive major after coming off a 10-month PED suspension, Italy's Yannick Sinner.
Dude, when you told me, because I saw that it was long, it went a long time. I can remember watching, oh God, when we were kids. I remember watching Agassi win Roland Garros to finish the um
The career Grand Slam.
the career slam. Did he beat Sampras in that final?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I know for as good legendary as they were, I don't remember if they've ever met in I don't think they met in a French final.
It was Medvedev,
I thought so.
and he came back from two. I remember this as long as for as long as I live. Medvedev was up 2 sets to love in
Yeah, the
that
only
match.
time they ever met at Roland Garros, was the 92 quarters where Agassi won in straight sets.
Okay, that was when he was still wearing the wig.
Yep.
Real quick, did you ever hear the story about how he beat Boris Becker?
Yes, but please refresh my memory because it's good fodder.
Boris gave away where the serve was going with his tongue. Like if he was put it in the middle, it would go toward the middle, or either side. And Agassi figured it out and he told him years later. That's just a kick in the balls.
It's it's a it was relatively panned, but I gotta say some of the breakdown, some of the tennis breakdown, like the actual strategy and everything from the rom-com Wimbledon with Paul Bettany and Kirsten Dunst was
Mm-hmm.
pretty good, even though John McEnroe and Chris Everett's commentary was dog shit. Um, for the actual tennis scenes. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that movie because also remember that was Kirsten Dunst, you know, just post Spider-Man, like when she was like starting to branch out like Elizabethtown and things like that. But um and I think Paul Bettany had just come off of doing Legion.
I think it was Legion and Da Vinci Code.
Because Priest came after that.
Yeah, and then of course you had Vision against Mary Jane Watson. Uh, moving
But
on to the
but anyway, in that one, uh Sinner was up 6-4, 7-6 after winning the second set in the tiebreaker. Alcaraz comes back and wins 7-6 in the third set tiebreaker. Sinner is at uh, 5-3 and match point in the fourth set. Alcaraz comes back, forces a fifth set. He's up a break. He's up 5-3 in the fifth. Sinner comes back, ties it. They go to 6-6, and then Alcaraz basically shuts out Sinner in the fifth set tiebreaker.
First of all, to go to 5 sets is a long endurance trial. To have multiple tiebreakers in there going 5 sets is like it's insanity.
Mike, I turned this thing on like when it was 4-2 in the fourth. Um, Sinner was already up a break in the fourth, already being up 2-1. I was watching him, getting ready to serve for the match at this point, and then just kind of the bottom falls out, and then he loses all momentum, and then he gets it back with his back against the wall in the fifth set, and then just completely ran out of gas in the tiebreaker. I mean, when I tuned it in, the match had just started. It had just clipped the 3 hour mark. By the time I saw that Alcaraz was up 4-0 in the fifth set tiebreaker, I shut it off at this point because I really wanted Sinner to win. I have nothing against Alcaraz, but um, being the Italian, gotta pull for Sinner here. But then it's all mathematic at that point. Um, Another part of that I'll talk about here in just like 1 second. Um, but the match had already passed the 5 hour and 20 minute mark by the time I
Jesus,
shut it off.
Jesus.
And I understand cheering for your countrymen. If I were the officials at Roland Garros, I would have actually had ushers all over the stadium ejecting fans. I cannot tell you the number of times that I had to hear the chair umpire call for quiet because the Alcaraz fans would not shut up leading into the
I
serve.
hate that shit. Same thing in golf. As much as I love Tiger back in the day, the idiots in the gallery when Tiger would play were just fucking stupid.
Although I will say there's part of me that also feels, and I think Sinner will even say this as well, he got screwed in the fourth set.
Bad
That
calling it out.
Yeah, on a serve. It would have double
Really?
faulted, and it actually, yeah. Alcaraz Sinner had only 2 double faults the entire tournament. Alcaraz had
Jesus.
6 double faults in the final,
Good God.
and up 30-15, leading 4-2 in that fourth set. Alcaraz is on his second serve after serving the first one with a let, right into the top of the net. The ball goes long and it misses, and Sinner kind of held something back on it. He hits a return, and then Alcaraz just basically hits it straight up the line for a winner, and that's basically where the tide kind of shifted because Sinner, um, Sinner kind of backed off. Sinner kind of quit on the point because he and the chair umpire didn't even come down for a replay because with the French, since they're old school, a lot of the times if they call for a review, the chair umpire, they won't go to the automated scoring system. The chair umpire still comes down and checks the mark. And this ball was
Jesus.
2 inches long, and it ends up costing Sinner the game, and the whole thing changes. He had a
That's crazy.
legitimate gripe.
Yeah, and between that, what we've seen in the NBA with some of the refs, what we've seen in the NFL with the refs, and what we've seen obviously in Major League Baseball with the umpires, these dudes who are officiating these matches and these games have really got to get their heads out of their fucking asses.
I mean, female umpire or anything, a female chair umpire at Roland Garros for this championship match aside and everything, even McEnroe said, I understand that they want to be a part of it. They still want to feel like they've got something a part of it because you got to know that there's going to be a day where they go robot everything in tennis just to be able to make sure the calls are right and everything, especially in the majors. Um, Baseball, we're leaning towards that way to where, the umpire is really just going to be there to be able to call safe and everything at home and issue warnings. But all the balls and strikes are going to be handled electronically. Um, we're moving that way in all sports. There's still going to be part of the human element there, but how could you not want to modernize a little bit at a tournament like that?
Well, especially at Roland Garros, you're talking about a major. The Grand Slam is the Grand Slam for a reason. Uh, I think all the Grand Slams should have it. I mean, especially because you're talking about not only but a lot of money, but legacy on the line.
Yeah.
You can't have a referee or a chair umpire take away legacy. It's wrong. Well, I'm glad that the professional sports that have done it and do it well. Baseball has come a long way in the years since they started it, and the NFL's been doing it forever. And Wes McCauley has made NHL review appointment television. But I can't even believe he didn't come down, or she didn't come down. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So it's hook 'em horns in women's college softball, huh?
Yeah, considering how uh, Texas Tech, finalized basically ended the Oklahoma dynasty to get to the World Series, or at least the championship match. Texas jumps to the SEC, and the SEC dominance continues. So Texas SEC, four previous by Oklahoma. Florida's got one in the last 10 years. LSU has got one in the last few years. So it's, it's not so much having nearly as much of a problem, with the SEC being so dominant in the Women's College World Series, or the Men's College World Series, for that matter, just because of how expanded out their playoff system is. And we'll talk about, the landscape of college sports here coming up in the next month or so, with a
Yeah.
big story that came out over the weekend. Um, we're just kind of laying out for that to be able to see what shakes out of this, especially kind of over the next month, especially over the next month, um,
Yeah.
with some of the time frames that were listed. But congratulations to the Longhorns, their first Women's College World Series championship.
Yeah, definitely hats off to the Horns. I'm sure McConaughey is having a beer in their honor right now. But did you see some of the scores from the men's today?
I saw that Tennessee got boat raced.
Tennessee got boat raced by Arkansas 11-4. Murray State beat the fuck out of Duke. Murray State won that game 19-9. The rest of it right now, number 8 Oregon is putting it on Florida State. It's 11-3 Oregon State in the bottom of the third inning. LSU shutting out West Virginia 6-0. Louisville won a squeaker from Miami today. And UCLA beat Texas San Antonio 7-0. Hello, Murray State. I think they're the hot team no one wants to play.
Yeah, but they still have a game 3 coming up tomorrow, and the winner advances to Omaha.
That's going to be fun, and I love watching it. Like I said before, whenever it's at Rosenblatt, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But let's get to the last two things, and let's address the first thing there, as Aaron Rodgers has finally signed his contract, and he will take his
Lumps.
shit show. His what?
His lumps.
Yeah, and the shit show that is his career to the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1-year deal, right?
Yeah, 1-year deal, upwards of 13 million.
So I saw a meme. I believe I sent it to you. I know I sent it to Glitterbug. The Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers is like banging the hot chick from high school, but she's 40 and has 4 kids. But we know what the downside is. It's Rodgers. It's a shit show. It's a fucking circus. It's an over the hill quarterback. Now there are some silver linings here for the Pittsburgh Steelers that no one's going to like. Number one, if you put Aaron Rodgers in the numbers he had last year on the Pittsburgh Steelers, they win the AFC North. So if he just does what he did with the Jets, then Pittsburgh is going to have something to say about the playoffs this year. I believe they improved themselves defensively and with a running back in the draft.
Yep.
They're coming back and having TJ Watt fully healthy. You still have Minka Fitzpatrick's felonious ass in the secondary, which gets us into our last thing that we're going to talk about before band practice. But this could be interesting. They did not improve their offensive line the way they should have. So guys like is it Hendrickson that's in Cincinnati? The defensive end?
Yep.
Hendrickson and Miles and those boys in Baltimore are going to feast on this geriatric fuck as often as possible. I know the Yinzers are happy with Pat McAfee leading the way. Jim,
go ahead.
I see this, and the only team that's going to end up under 500 in the AFC North is going to be the fucking Browns.
Yeah, because the Browns are actually in the, the Browns are now finally able to hit the reset button the way that they want to, their hands not being forced by, the failure of the quarterback that they brought in free agency. Whereas, could we finally see, because I saw a graphic out there that the last time that the Steelers finished in the bottom 5 of league standings was 1967.
No, I don't think they will. Again,
I don't either. But if you start drooling thinking that they're the second best team in the division behind the Ravens, because of the fact that you've got a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers throwing to DK Metcalf and Freiermuth, you're sadly mistaken, my friend.
Where I think they are the third best team in the division is because of Aaron's age. Where I think they could inch up to be the second best team in the division is they are a more complete team than the Cincinnati Bengals. Everybody knows it.
I would say that again, Pittsburgh. Well, let's be honest. Cincinnati could be a little bit more complete and challenge Baltimore a little bit more if they could actually get Hendrickson happy. And put a little bit more into their front seven. Baltimore, we know, is the class of the division. The Browns hopefully start creeping back up in the next year or two. It's going to take a year or two to get them. Of the bottom dwellers that were in the bottom 5 of the NFL this year, I think the Browns have the best opportunity to turn that around and get back into things with the way that they built and getting 2 quarterbacks that can start in this league. Whether or not they're going to be successful, time remains. But they had arguably the best draft of anybody out there on paper. But the Steelers right now certainly are the most complete. But I will say that with 2 rookie quarterbacks, a 40-year-old quarterback, and the guy with the smallest hands you'll ever see, the Cleveland Browns have a better quarterback scenario right now than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because right now the Steelers
that's because Mason Rudolph's in their quarterback room.
Correct. So you've got a guy who in Will Howard you hope is going to be the future, but they've got him slotted third behind Mason Rudolph, who is still reeling from getting slammed in the head 6 years ago, and can't do shit.
Was it that long ago?
And a guy, a guy who basically thankfully that they've got yellow in their uniform to be able to wake him up, because wearing all that black in their home uniform, he's going to actually think he was like out in the desert, like holed up in a cave again, meditating for 2 months.
Is he to the age where he's drinking the CBD infused tea to just sleep at night?
makes you wonder just how much of that bong water he's actually drank.
I think he bathes in it.
What's gonna smell worse? Three sewers
Rogers
or
or
Aaron
Pittsburgh in
Rodgers?
general. Rogers or Pittsburgh in general. Let me see. Hit it.
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
Never mind that. Hit the other one.
Pivot!
Okay.
I know where
Well-
you're going. I'm trying to stop you from getting there.
I'm here so I won't get fined. But now the hat has to come off now.
As before we tip our cap to that, let's actually put the final nail in the coffin of that last one. But
Rusty cunt bucket.
Amen, sir. Amen. But now it's a solemn time. We went a half hour late because the Cleveland football family has suffered a loss. Nicholas Jamal Chubb, the inspiration, the reason we watched the team for several years because of horrendous quarterback play and a scumbag under center, will be signing with the Houston Texans pending a physical on Monday. The Nicholas Jamal Chubb era
we
has
can
come
say
to a
Nicholas
close.
Jamal Chubb because until that physical happens, he is still technically a member of the Cleveland Browns.
That's true. And I believe with all he gave to Cleveland, we should say Nicholas Jamal Chubb anytime we talk of him.
Once he retires, yes, but now unfortunately we cannot because we don't have to put respect on his name because not only has he left, he's also actually gone to where the scumbag quarterback that we're still saddled with for another 2 years came from. This is Michael. This is Duke Johnson all over again.
Yeah, it is. It is. Moreover, I would like to know why the city of Houston hates the city of Cleveland so much. What did we ever do to them? It's not like we're Chuck talking about their women like he does at San Antonio. What the hell did we do to fucking Houston?
You know the first visual that has popped in my head.
The churros? You know, Shaq was on with the Kelseys, right? And he called himself the Black Kelsey brother. By the way, off topic, if you haven't seen it, the episode with Whitworth and Fitzpatrick is fucking gold. And the four of them were in the same place. They were in the same room.
I mean, Andrew Whitworth, very, you don't shore up that Rams offensive line for all those years and not have stories upon stories upon stories to tell.
Oh my God. But with Fitz and especially Fitz and Jason, it's stupid. But yeah, this was a rough one when I saw that come over. I was putting Bobby down, and a guy on TikTok who I follow was doing a live about it, and he's a Browns. He was pissed, and he wasn't pissed he left because I think everybody knew that Chubb's days in Cleveland were numbered. But the fact that he went to Houston, and now if he has success in Houston, you're talking about the Browns really giving Houston their entire fucking roster.
Yeah.
It's just, I blame Billy. I just blame Billy.
For how it ended, but really how it began, we can blame Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Minka Fitzpatrick's a felonious piece of shit. I said that he should have been arrested. When I think of Minka Fitzpatrick, I think of the scene with Ray Finkel's parents and Dan Marino.
What, that the engine's running and there's nobody behind the wheel? I know the line that you're thinking of. I'm again, I'm trying to go high road here.
Why? It's fucking Pittsburgh.
As I'm waiting on as I'm 6 weeks away from Happy Gilmore 2,
Dude,
which
I can't fucking.
MJF shilled the shit out of on Dynamite last week.
Did you see the trailer?
I'm trying not to.
Why? Dude, it's so good.
That's why.
Some of the cast that we read on the air, it was totally wrong. Tiger is not in it.
I didn't think he would be.
Look, he was supposed to be Chubbs Jr. according to that cast list we read. Lavelle Crawford, the comedian, plays Chubb Jr. Someone is there as the child of the guy from James Bond who had the fucking nail in his head. I mean, dude, and the trailer ends with our line. He says, "Why would I want to steal the life of someone who eats pieces of shit for breakfast?" It looks so good.
Yeah, but we heard Sydney Sweeney was going to be in it. She wasn't. She's not. Paige Spiranak will have a bit part in there. Max is in
She's
there.
in it. Rory's in it. Jordan's in it. Scotty's in it.
I want to say Zalator's pulled out because I think he was having surgery. I think he had like back surgery or something.
Yep, Bryson's in it. I mean, it just looks so good.
Did you also hear that the other story that came out with Adam Sandler?
About Derrick Henry?
Yeah. So
That's
those
beautiful.
of you who don't know, Adam Sandler has already said if Derrick Henry rushes for 2,000 yards this season, he will cast him in one of his upcoming movies.
Jim, could we see Waterboy 2?
Could we see Longest Yard 3?
No. No. God, no. I wasn't a fan of his remake.
I wasn't a huge fan of the original, and I know that's sacrilegious to go against Burt Reynolds, but it's like Goldberg, Kevin Nash, Stone Cold, Bosworth, Romanowski. It's like that was paradise for me.
Kali.
Yeah. I was watching something last week. I don't remember what it was, and I saw Five-Star Torres in a supporting role in this TV show,
Nice.
and it's like the only thing I could think of is I still got 15 minutes of Joy Behar.
So let me go over a quick one with the audience while you get the band practice all set up. Here's another reason I think the Pittsburgh Pirates have the worst owner in baseball. They're going to trade Paul Skeens. It is becoming very clear, with as good as he is, and with all the shit that's going down with that franchise, they are going to trade him. God help us if it's to the fucking Dodgers. Just God help us if it's to the fucking Dodgers.
I think he'll go to a team. If they do move him, I don't think it's going to be to. I think if you see him go to somebody like the Dodgers or the Yankees, I got a feeling you're going to see a bunch of teams like literally try to have that voided, legally as an antitrust.
Yeah, I think also the teams are what they can put together the best package, or like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets.
Would you?
There's a couple of smaller teams in there too, but I don't see Pittsburgh trading him to Milwaukee because that's in division. I definitely don't see him trading him to the Cubs. The intriguing one is Detroit. How'd you like to face that two-headed monster in the fucking
I was
playoffs?
gonna say you put those two together, and the Tigers effectively you can put their names in the playoffs for the next 6 years until
I'm gonna go with that.
or at least until one of them ends up with TJ because of how hard they throw.
I'm gonna go one further. You put them in the playoffs, and you've got the 2025 version of Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, I could see that because Screwball throws hard when he has to. Skeens is just gas, 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 but he's got
Yeah, so
incredible
Skeens is
control on his gas. But Screwball is very much like Schilling. He's not gonna run it up there as hard, but he's certainly not like Greg Maddux. He's just consistent. He's not a corner
yeah,
painter, but he knows exactly where he wants to go.
and Skeens is Johnson throwing nothing but having a flamethrower attached to his body on that side, and has the devastating hook to go with it. It's He ends up in Detroit, and I pray to Christ that they lose somewhere, and I don't have to see him in a World Series. I can't lose another one, dude.
Yeah, but I just don't. I'm afraid it would actually ruin our vision of Livy Dunn having to be in Pittsburgh more often. I'm sorry, in Detroit more often.
I don't know. Kate Upton stayed pretty fucking hot having to live in Detroit too.
Go to like Tampa or Florida. This way, it's like rub it out. If a power couple's gonna rub it in our face, for being hot, at least let them do it where we can enjoy it through Instagram.
True. Very true. But Jim, there is only one thing left to do.
Would you shut up and
It
just
is
push
time
the
for
button
band
already?
practice, sir.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes,
As my
ladies and
mouth got
gentlemen, it
really
is
sensitive there.
that I got to tell you though, that was a great transition. I will give you that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator, the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is the moment when Jim and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and the first thing that pops into our mind is what we give to you. Now, usually, and in the past, I've gone over the amazement of Translator Past. Charles Dickens just rolled over in his fucking grave. But since, well, we're what, 70 some episodes into having our friend the Chronicle?
I don't think it's been that long, but I know we're coming up on I want to say we're
Oh, we're
coming
coming
up
up
on
on 50.
50 translators.
Yeah, we're coming up on 80 translators, but I think it's about 50 with the
We're
Chronicle.
getting there. I know we've actually done Supercut 4, so I want to say we're at 41 or 42.
Yep. So, James, if you would please, sir, the Chronicle for this evening.
We said we weren't going to talk about it, wrong time, wrong place. Well, guess what? It is the right time and right place because
Hold on. I got to see the rest of it. Hold on a minute. So, for those of you who don't know, last night was WWE's Money in the Bank. And the main event outside of the Money in the Bank match, which was won by Seth Rollins, was a tag team match between the World Heavyweight Champion, main event Jey Uso, and Cody Rhodes, against Logan Paul and John Cena. Well, Cena hits Cody with the belt. Cody's laying in the middle of the ring. All of a sudden, a hooded figure comes out of the stand, spears Cena, beats the hell out of him, hits him with the belt, and it's R-Truth. And of course, the night before, WWE fans on SmackDown are screaming, "We want truth." And Cena does the Jack Nicholson impersonation, which was dog shit, by the way. And the next night, we get Truth beating the piss out of John Cena. Which, by the
As
way, what
go ahead.
watch the reactors to that.
Easily, and it's there's 2 that I actually will name personally here, and maybe even link to them later on, in a second, but, the backstory is that, Ron Killings, um, had been with WWE for 17 years, and it was later found out that his contract is not gonna be renewed, and then shows up, and there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, is this a work?" Well, apparently they heard such horrific fan backlash that either he's got a new contract or they extended it, because I don't think that they worked all of us, but it's also I saw a comment here that it's like, "Fuck you, Triple H, for getting us to this point in the first place."
Yeah. Um, I will say this with the way, and I'm going to use his actual name because whatever, with the way Paul has run the storyboards, really, I could see them working us like this.
I don't know about that, but then again, he did put the women's Money in the Bank winner on another member, albeit by marriage, of that stupid fucking Samoan family.
Who won the women's?
No way, Naomi, Jimmy
Ah,
Uso's
shit.
wife.
Shit. Wait, were there 2 men's matches? Because I saw Solo Sokoa went up, was going to grab one of the things.
No, it was the same one. He got turned
Okay.
on, but Solo
I
was in the
take it.
match. Jacob Fatu was not. And Fatu cost Solo getting the briefcase for Rollins to grab.
Okay. And they're going to push Rollins to win the world heavyweight to face Cena at some point in time, aren't they?
Um, Hear me out,
Okay.
because he's not going by our truth. Now that he's back, he's going by his real name, Ron Killings.
Ooh.
Does Ron Killings find a way to beat Cena for the title and then Rollins cashes in? And then Cody starts a program with Rollins, with Cena basically out of the picture.
I think that's how Cena loses the belt end of the year. If they do that, Cena's got to lose the belt end of the year. The problem is you can't put the belt on Ron Killings for 5 minutes. That would be even bigger backlash than doing this shit with the contract.
See, the problem is if Rollins is going to, with giving Rollins that, he's going to win the title. I don't think he's going to take it off of Jey Uso because it would be way too easy at that point. And especially with then again, Jey Uso is on Raw. Whereas well, Rollins could challenge for either one, but the problem is that he's going to have to challenge that because his other 2 guys in that stable are both signed to Raw, so you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
have them all go over to SmackDown. Rollins is going to cash in and win. He's going to have to do it against a face, whether that guy is Cody Rhodes or whether that guy is Ron Killings remains to be seen, though.
Yeah, and if I could just interrupt quick, game 2 has gone final. OKC 123, Indiana 107. We go back to Indiana, tied 1-1. SGA goes 34-8 in a must-win game, if you ask me. But James, we still have a chance to get out of here in under 2. So what do you say we get the translator done here? And I'm going to give you the first name, sir, and it's one that we have mentioned earlier. And James, your first name in tonight's translator is former New York Knicks head coach Tom Thibodeau.
He may not have gotten to the finals this year, but he actually can hold his head held high with a title, albeit it's not the greatest title that you think about it. Best NBA coach that has done more with less and given raw deals by the people above him in the last 15 years.
I didn't get to the soundboard fast enough, but I would have hit the applause. I agree with you 100%. 100%. What do you got for me, dude?
You got Chicago going in the right direction. Yeah, granted, the Knicks went out and tried to buy the farm and everything. with the cat trade. But Josh Hart came up big, in these playoffs, and then again ran into the hotter team in Indiana, and again for you could say whatever you want about lack of adjustments, and that's what got uh, you know JB fired in Cleveland, and then had them shut up, Mike. Um, um, but and we saw that the same thing happened with Detroit. But granted, the it was you had JB against Thibodeau in that first round. JB is going to have himself a good run there in Detroit. We think Tibbs is going to basically whoever is going to be the one that brings him on staff at this point is going to end up hitting the jackpot for at least the next 5 years.
Could Tibbs replace Doc Rivers in Milwaukee?
I would normally say yes, but we have to know that Giannis is on his way out, and Dame is probably going to want to go right behind him at this
Okay.
point. So if Tibbs is going to go there, it's got to be with the idea that Giannis is going to stay out the last year of that deal.
Okay. That was my first thought. Was it popped into my head? You want an established coach and an established star. Doc Rivers ain't getting it done in Milwaukee. Could you give Tibbs, Giannis, and Dame?
You got to figure he's got to be incredibly pissed off right now. Tibbs does, just because of. Could you imagine? He would have been licking his chops. He would have walked to the Alamo for a shot at coaching San Antonio next year with De'Aaron Fox coming back and
Yeah.
and Wemby at some point.
Yeah. No, I agreed. Agreed. What you got for me, bud?
Mike, your first name in the Wisey translator tonight, he is back in the news for all the wrong reasons yet again. It's an old friend, certainly not on this show, but an old friend in the state that you and I kind of grew up in. Um, Adam Pac-Man Jones.
What the fuck did he do now?
He got arrested for public intoxication again.
Oh, so we're going with the old hits now.
Yeah.
Let's see, Pac-Man. Yeah. Power pellets don't include booze.
Arrested near Cincinnati at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Charged with alcohol intoxication in public, disorderly conduct, assault of a police officer or a probation officer. Posted $10,000 bond and released around 11:30 a.m. Saturday. And it's the fourth time since 2021 he has been arrested.
Well,
And he's also being consistent because it's now the third consecutive calendar year that he has been arrested for public intoxication.
I mean, if you're good at something. So James, I have a second name for you tonight. I only did one name last week because little man got up. Apparently this evening he woke up, called his mother into his room. She pet his head 3 times and he was back to sleep, snoring already.
Did
odd
she
bird,
did
but
she say did she sing Soft Kitty?
no. Did you see her Facebook post from earlier?
I've been off Facebook outside of like my little. Please hold. I
I
need this. I need to see this.
Yes. I did a Danny DeVito impersonation today.
That's not bad.
Yeah. I did
It
pretty good.
honestly should have. You know what you should have done is I need to send you this video tomorrow when I get in the office. Some woman like wants to go to a salon and actually like have her hair, just trimmed a couple of inches, and her husband basically saves $80 and he has her stand on the opposite side of the room and he takes his laser level and puts it on a table and does a perfect line.
Yeah. No, didn't do that. But I got to tell you, my comment on that post is I have 3 children and I was less nervous holding them the first time than I was doing that.
I think it came out really well.
I think I did okay.
Although
I
although
wouldn't make it a
there is part of me that I can't tell with the filter. It almost looks AI from the photo that she took.
it's not fucking AI, dude.
With the way be honest, dude. Look at the picture with the filter that's
I've seen
on there and the clarity on there. You could make an argument, Steph, I love you to death. Um, it looks AI. It
Yeah, well,
does.
the problem is the person she had cut her hair looks the fuck like this. So
Indulge me for a minute.
wait.
You know you hit yourself too hard when that vein in your head starts coming out.
Dude, I caught myself with my wedding band. I'm hurting.
EC dub,
James,
EC dub,
EC dub.
dub.
I have a second name for you. Speaking of the state that we called home, you still me for what I call my formative years. And I'm gonna go here, and I want your honest opinion on it. And James, your second name in tonight's Wisey Translator is Trevor Bauer.
Never going to get over him costing us the 2016 World Series, but let's also be honest. There's multiple teams, especially their fan bases, that would have no problem bringing him back into the fold at this point, especially with Cleveland. Francona is not there anymore, even though a lot of the front office guys are. Um, and he certainly knows the depth of the park after having thrown a ball over the center field wall.
That was in
Um,
Kansas City.
it was, but he knows it. You know, he knows all the dimensions full well. Um, I just want the him to get done tossing to Jake Taylor in the Mexican League so he can so their season can be over.
Yeah, I will say this: the sheer fact that he is being blacklisted for behavior that, if it had been true, is deplorable. But he's being blacklisted for that when the people who made the complaint against him are now going to do jail time for trying to defraud him. The fact that baseball hasn't given him an even shot, it's he could sue them for collusion and he would win.
What kind of behavior did you say that was?
Deplorable?
And chicanerous?
Jesus Christ.
You teed it up, man. That's going
I
on the
did.
soundboard. That will be one of the things that I will pull for next week.
Yeah.
Because right now you are being insubordinate and churlish.
Oh God. I can't with you. As long as Gabagool gets there.
Michael, your final name in the Wisey translator, he was a playoff hero sticking with the state of Ohio last year. He was a playoff hero last year. He has been designated for assignment earlier today, and we actually now have to find like other memes or it's going to make the announcers very sad. That is now former Cleveland Indian and now AAA member, Big Christmas, John Kenzie Noel.
Do you call him Big Columbus now?
I mean, Big Christmas has got to sit, with the
It
Noel.
does.
But yeah, but the Columbus thing certainly.
He- Here's my take on this. Guys sometimes catch lightning in a bottle, and they have a moment, and that's what John Kensley Noel had last year, and that was one of the bigger moments in Guardian playoff history. Uh, because that ball was fucking murdered. Um,
I mean,
but here's
real
the opposite side.
realistically, in the last 10 years, it's right up there with Lindor's bomb and Uribe's bomb.
Exactly. But here's the opposite. He's a one-trick pony. He's Rob fucking Deere. He's Dave Kingman. He's he's a home run hitter who will hit 220 and hit 20 bombs, and that's not good enough now.
And you have to figure they're getting better production out of Nolan Jones the second time back with the organization. They've got
Exactly.
Lane Thomas, coming back here very, very shortly off of his injury. Um, and you got to figure, certainly by the time they expand the rosters with the way that they've fallen off a little bit, Travis Bazzana is going to get a shot here,
Yep.
on the infield before the end of the year, even if he's called up from just Double A.
No, I think you will see by the deadline, if they are out of it, Bazzana will be the everyday second baseman for the remainder of the season. And it's smart.
And I think they'd probably want to bring him up to Columbus a little bit first rather than keep him in Akron.
No, I think if they're going to have to, if they're out of it, I mean, I'm talking you're 15 games back by the deadline. You've got nothing to lose. Bring them up.
I
Bring
mean,
'em up.
yeah, they're 7.5 out now. So yeah, we've got another 2 months until the deadline, usually the end of July.
Yeah, we're what? Today's the 8th, so 22. If it's the 31st, we are 53 days from the deadline. We'll say 52, just because it's after 11 on a Sunday night. We're 52 days from the deadline, and they're 7.5 games back. I don't see Detroit slowing down. I did say earlier I was pissed they won today because the Mets are the second most wins in baseball right now. I would have loved to have been able to say that on the air, but Detroit's going to be Detroit.
And watch out, because somebody's got hot recently.
Who's that? The Cubs?
The Colorado Rockies won a series, Michael.
I know. Didn't they sweep Miami?
Yes.
Yeah, and then what happened this last 3 games? My boys whooped their ass 3 times. Actually, no, didn't whoop their ass 3 times. They won the first game because Lindor decided to shake off the busted pinky toe and drive in 2 in the 9th, and then they won the last 2 pretty easily. What was I looking for? Speaking of teams that have fallen off the cliff, on May 23rd, the Phillies had a 3-game lead on the Mets. They're now 3.5 back.
4.5.
4. Oh, they lost today.
And the
they
Braves
lost
have now lost
today?
7 in a row as well, and they've fallen 10 games under 500.
Jim, could my boys run away and hide?
I doubt that.
With all the injuries that the Phillies have?
It's certainly possible, but another time.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. Just because we still haven't seen Minaya and Montas and those boys, but I'm looking at this team right now, and Soto's starting to hit. Pete's not slowing down, and Lindor, even with the busted foot, is playing well. Mauricio comes up and is playing and immediately contributes. Acuna's great off the bench. Beatty's actually starting to hit. I mean, they're better than even I thought they were going to be.
Mike, I'm going to actually make a bold prediction before we get out of here. By the time we are on the air next Sunday night, the San Francisco Giants are going to be in first place in the NL West.
I don't think that's that bold.
They're a game back. They are currently tied with San Diego. The Giants are one up in the win column. They're one down in the loss column, and they've won 5 in a row.
Yeah, let's see who the Giants play this week.
Giants are going to open up a 3-game series at Coors Canaveral starting on Tuesday.
So that's three in Colorado. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Colorado, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in LA. And then the Gardos are in Cleveland or are in San Francisco the following week. They'll actually be on while we're on next weekend because they're the Sunday night game against the Dodgers.
Yep.
And they'll be tied for first place by the time we go on the air. Still, who would have thunk that?
Yeah, it's somewhere Tim Lincecum is like getting the call to start warming up.
Mets have a kid that looks like him in his mechanics. I hated the freak.
But we will see you guys next Sunday. It'll be another abbreviated show for Father's
went to
Day.
11.
We still come on the air later. You know, well, you got to figure Bobby's out of school. You might want to be up a little bit later. We also next week we'll look into the NBA and the NHL finals. As now we'll be right smack in the middle of those. We'll be into game 5s in both because we're guaranteed game 5s. Hopefully, we're actually not celebrating a champion in one and waiting in the other. But the other aspect, and we're already gonna let you know the other part of the hat trick for next week. We've got the U.S. Open coming up next weekend.
Yes. We've got the U.S. Open. We've got some, hiatus is coming for us. But once we get out of hiatus, we are full tilt every week, full content heavy. We're going to get the boys are going to be together again, whether it's the horsemen will be together for the football preview, obviously, like we did last year. But we've got some big college news to go through. We got NFL camps are opening soon. We got college camps are opening soon. This summer is going to get, by the time we come back from hiatus, we'll be at the All-Star break for baseball.
And we're also, and you figure right after right after our hiatus, we're also going to be able to look back on the NHL and the NBA drafts.
Yeah. So it is coming down the pipe. We got a lot going on, but we will see you next week for a Father's Day episode. Hopefully it doesn't get too stupid.
You realize who you're talking to? I'm going to throw it right back at you from last week.
Yes. I know who I'm talking to. That was more a dare than anything else.
We will see all of you guys next week. Everyone have a great week. Have a great rest of your evening. Everybody take care. I'll see you on the Sports Note later on this week. Michael actually see you on his blog later this week as well.
Good night and big balls.
Let this be a lesson, Restream, to be able to get your shit together when I'm trying to upload stuff.